What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today, guys, I am here for an early review of Swamp Thing on 4K. That is right, this was sent to me by MVD Entertainment. This is the first in their new LaserVision line. You got number 1 right there on the spine. I don't know if you can see that right there. But pretty cool edition that they are putting out this Tuesday. This actually comes out this Tuesday, July the 25th is when you can pick it up. It is available to pre-order right now for $34.99. So I'm going to let you guys know if this is worth a pickup here in this review today. But before we get into it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about physical media on this channel every single day. 4Ks, Blu-rays, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me. And then drop me a comment down below, guys. Have you seen the movie Swamp Thing? Let me know your thoughts on the movie. Are you planning on purchasing this 4K? There's also another option to purchase this movie from MVD, which we'll talk about here today in this review. But let me know if you're going to get it. I will link it down below in the description, as well as the Blu-ray option that will be coming out in a couple of weeks down below in the description. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into talking about this movie. I like to break down the actual film itself first, and then we'll get to the transfer and the specs and all the good stuff, special features, a little bit later on in the video. So first things first, this is a first-time watch for me. I had never seen the movie Swamp Thing, written and directed by Wes Craven. And it's funny because leading up to this release, I was excited to get this, but I didn't realize this was directed by Wes Craven. I knew he had something to do with like one of the Swamp Things because there's a couple of them, but I did not know that he wrote and directed this one until I popped it in, and then I saw it come up, written and directed by, I was like, oh, Wes Craven did this movie? This came out in 1982, and it is based on a DC comic book. So we have James Gunn right now who's kind of rebooting the universe, and one of the films on his slate is a Swamp Thing movie. So we could be seeing a lot more Swamp Thing in years to come if everything pans out. You know, who knows what's going to happen with what's going on in Hollywood right now. But if everything goes to plan, we should be getting another Swamp Thing movie in the theaters at some point in the next 5 years or so. But yeah, I thought that this was a fun movie. I'd never seen it before. It's starring, of course, Adrienne Barbeau, who's right there on the cover, who was in a number of horror movies in the 80s. I mean, she was in The Fog just the year before this. She was in Creepshow the very same year. So like she did all kinds of horror movies. And I would say that Barbeau is definitely known for her commanding on-screen presence, her charm, her charisma, but also a couple of extraordinary attributes as well that are highlighted in the unrated cut of this movie. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a very fun movie. It's a creature feature for sure, but also because of its, you know, DC comic book roots, it plays kind of like a superhero origin story. And when I first heard of Swamp Thing back in the day, when I used to see the covers and the posters and stuff, I just assumed that this was a horror movie, that he was, you know, attacking people and killing people. But watching this movie for the first time, like, Swamp Thing is the hero of this movie. And yes, he does kill people, and yes, he does throw people around and maim people, but they're the bad guys. So he is the hero of this story. He is not the villain. So I actually thought that that was pretty cool because I didn't know that. I thought Swamp Thing was kind of like the creature that attacked people in the movies. But you know, he's actually the hero. He is the superhero of this film. So yeah, I enjoyed the story of this movie overall. It's played pretty straightforward, pretty serious throughout the movie. Now, I was compelled when I got done watching this 4K, I actually popped in the sequel directed by Jim Wynorski, The Return of Swamp Thing. And I've had this MVD Rewind edition for like the past 4 years or so. But I had never watched this one. And of course, you get Heather Locklear in this film in a very early role. And this is played much more campy, much more over the top, and honestly, it's a lot more fun as an actual movie. But this one, as far as the first one, like, this is very serious in tone. There's some serious moments. There's a lot of moments that are played for dramatic effect. So I think that they, you know, Wes Craven, you know, definitely took this material seriously, even though, like, back in the 80s, like, people weren't taking comic book movies as seriously as they are now. They were kind of seen as schlock. And I feel like Wes Craven took this material, and in any other filmmaker's hands, you know, it could have ended up like The Return of Swamp Thing, which is super campy, but also super fun. But in Wes Craven's hands, he really, you know, added a seriousness to it and really added a dramatic weight to the story and, you know, all the characters and stuff. So I enjoyed this movie for that, and I enjoyed how seriously, you know, Wes Craven took this story and this material. You could tell that he actually cared about it. So I enjoyed watching that for sure. Now, we'll say the makeup and the effects, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the 4K transfer. They don't hold up the best, to be honest. They're pretty good for their time, but they don't hold up the best. It's not, and to be honest, like, again, I'll compare this to the sequel. I watched the sequel. The look of Swamp Thing in the sequel is great, and it absolutely holds up. I would hold the makeup effects of Swamp Thing in this movie up to anything that's made today, of all the CGI and stuff. I think he looks spectacular in this movie. But in this movie, it's very much just a guy in a rubber suit with some leaves and stuff kind of hanging off of him. So it's not the greatest, you know, makeup effects wise. And, you know, even for this time period, like a year later, you would have The Thing come out. So I don't know. I'm a little conflicted on it. I'm sure they were working off of a budget and they did the best that they could. So overall, guys, as for the movie, it's a little slow. It's definitely meandering in parts. Like, it feels like there's a lot of Adrienne Barbeau and the little boy that she meets, like, just riding around on a boat for like half of the movie, like that. So it really gets, it starts off with a bang, you know, a literal bang in a sense. And it kind of ends that way as well. But there's just a lot of meandering in the middle that's, you know, it kind of brings the movie down a little bit. But I still did enjoy the movie. But watching the sequel, like right after it, I was like, this one's so much fun and it moves at a really good pace. And this one is fun as well, and I did enjoy it. But it's just a little slower moving, so definitely know that going in. But I did enjoy the movie. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. Now let's go ahead and jump into the actual 4K transfer here, because I know that's why you're all watching this review, right? So this is an exclusive new 16-bit 4K restoration from the original camera negative. It's a new 4K scan done in 2023, and you have that on both the US theatrical cut and the international unrated version as well. Which, speaking of that, because you do have the option to watch both, you can click on both from the beginning, unrated, theatrical. The only like big difference between the two, and I will say big difference between the two, is Adrienne Barbeau, like, you know, shows her tatas in the swamp. Like, they have a whole scene with her like taking a bath, and there's a big scene with her just showing her boobs in the swamp, and they cut that from the US version to bring it down to a PG, but they kept it over in other countries internationally. So that's the big difference between the two. You get some nudity in the unrated cut, and you don't get any nudity in the theatrical cut. And this does include Dolby Vision and HDR, and there is a 4K scan on the Blu-ray that is included in this set as well. So getting into how it actually looks, because I watched Rain Man on 4K, which was put out by MVD as well, and to be completely honest, I wasn't overly impressed with that release. I didn't actually review that on the channel, but I thought it looked good, but it just didn't like blow me away. Now, the last time this was put out on physical media was back in 2013. Screen Factory actually did a Blu-ray of Swamp Thing, but I never owned that Blu-ray, so I can't really compare the two. But overall, to me, like watching this, I thought that this was a beautiful transfer. Like, I really thought it looked great. The HDR and the Dolby Vision actually did wonders for the greenery of the swamp setting. I mean, a lot of this movie takes place outside, you know, in that swamp setting with the water, and there's just tons of greenery around. And I thought all of that stuff looked fantastic. I talked about it recently with The Burning, but just those outdoor settings with lots of trees and grass, like in 4K with the Dolby Vision HDR, like that always looks great. There's also a good amount of film grain here, but it's not enough to be overly distracting or anything like that. Like, I thought that it had great facial detail and great close-up shots as well. I thought everything looked great. I thought you could make everything out. Everything was crystal clear, super smooth, especially in some of those like laboratory scenes and stuff. Like, you could just make everything out in the background. And I just thought the clarity overall was just fantastic throughout. Now, I will say it does take away from the look of the actual monster. Like I said, it is pretty much just a rubber suit, a guy in a rubber suit with a face mask and some, you know, grass and stuff growing off of him. Like, you can see the spots in the suit where the rubber is just a little bit loose, like around the legs and around the arms, and you can kind of see it hanging off a little bit as he moves and shifts around. So I actually think that being able to see him in that great of detail actually takes away from the look of the monster a little bit. So but I mean, that's nothing against the 4K picture quality itself. It's just like, do you want to see this movie that you maybe grew up with watching on VHS or DVD? or Blu-ray in this good a picture quality to where you can tell that it's very fake. Like that rubber suit just does not look great in that 4K. But overall, I thought this had a very consistent picture quality, and I was very impressed with the job that MVD did with this 4K restoration. So, I mean, as far as the actual picture quality and the look of this 4K, I would give it a thumbs up. Like, it looks fantastic. Now, you do also get a Blu-ray version with a 4K scan in this set. Now, that Blu-ray will also come standalone on August the 8th. I have no idea why they're releasing it on two separate dates, but this will be a part of the MVD Rewind collection, so that'll be a numbered line as well. It will not be numbered 1 like this LaserVision version. It'll be number, I think, like 51 or 52, I think is what they're on the MVD Rewind, but that'll be coming out on August the 8th, and that'll be $26.99, but you will get that 4K scan that is present in this 4K as well with that disc. And getting into the sound, this is an English DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 mono, and you also get the Spanish Dolby Digital mono as well. Everything sounded great to me. Like I said, Harry Manfredini's score sounded wonderful. I just, you know, there's a lot of big set piece moments in this. Like Swamp Thing goes ape crap at one point and just like straight up throws doors off a car, and like I like the way it looks too when he's like throwing stuff, because it just, I don't know, it's almost like it just gets sucked into the air. Like when he's throwing it, they're trying to simulate just how far he can throw something. So yeah, there's a lot of explosions and stuff like that throughout the film, but I thought everything sounded great throughout. Look, I would love to hear this movie in Dolby Atmos, because like I said, there are some set piece moments I think would sound great. But I think that the 2.0 mono is good enough for this film. Even though it's always good to have that upgrade in sound, I'm not going to fault MVD for not having it here with this release. Now, getting into the packaging right here, I really do like this slipcover, and I like what they're going for here with the LaserVision line. They're trying to bring us back to that Laserdisc day, kind of having the circle right there with the original poster, and then you have the font up there, and then you got the 4K LaserVision collection up at the top. And then you got that MVD Rewind collection right there. It's still a part of the Rewind line, but it's a new, you know, sub-label in the Rewind line. So very cool stuff, guys. And I'll show you the spine right here if I can focus. You can see that one down there at the bottom. There you go. Now it's focusing. You guys can see it. Take a look at the back right there. I'll zoom in. You got the synopsis up at the top. You got some pictures down there. You got the 4K. You got the Blu-ray and all the specs and the features and the casting list and all that good stuff, all the usual stuff at the back of these releases. Go ahead and take it out of the slipcover. You got the front of the 4K case. You got the back of the 4K case, which is pretty much all the same stuff. Open it up. You do have the Blu-ray and the 4K disc on the inside, and you also get a exclusive poster as well with this release, which is always cool with these MVD Rewinds. They always put posters in, and, you know, they're cool. They're not big or anything. You know, they're not even as big as the Arrow video versions. Are kind of just really mini posters, but they're still cool to have in there as little additions. Now, unfortunately, there's no reversible cover art. I would have liked to have seen some reversible cover art here, but there is no reversible cover art. I will say though, guys, I do like the slipcover. I like the design. I like what they're going for here, but I wish they would have done something a little bit more special here with this line, because it really is just like the MVD Rewind a line. You know, you had the slipcover with the Blu-ray on the inside. You have the slipcover with the 4K on the inside. I wish they would have done something like maybe a side loader, maybe a hard box case or something. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant or huge like the Arrow video box sets or anything, but maybe just like a hard case, like some of those Scream Factory hard cases to put the 4K disc on the inside, I think, you know, would have sold this a little bit better. And I think for the price point, which we'll get into here in a second, $34.99, I think that would be justified to give us a nice little hard box kind of slipcase side loader or something like that. But just kind of a nitpick. I think I do like the artwork at the end of the day. I think it's cool what they're doing here with this line. So getting into the special features, I think that, you know, there are some great special features here, but all of these are the Scream Factory special features. All the interviews that are present here, all the audio commentaries that are present here are the same ones that were included in that Scream Factory Blu-ray back in 2013. So you're not getting anything new here in terms of special features. And another thing that I have to note is it actually says on the back here that the commentaries are included on the 4K disc, and that is not the case. When I tried to play the commentaries, because there's a couple of really great commentaries on here. There's one with Wes Craven and Sean Clark, and there's another audio commentary with makeup effects artist William Munns, and that's moderated by Michael Felcher. So both of those commentaries, it says, are on the 4K, and you cannot play those on the 4K. Like it lists those, and I'll be showing you all footage of this right now. It lists them, but you can't go over to them to play them. They have an X through them, and you can't play them on the 4K disc, but you can listen to them and play them on the Blu-ray disc. It would have just been nice to have those included so you could watch it in 4K and also listen to the commentaries as well. So that's a little strange how they said that they're on the 4K disc, but they're not actually on the 4K disc. But both of them, you know, are on the Blu-ray disc itself. But there you have it, guys. That's my review for the 4K of Swamp Thing. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel like you can make a more informed decision on picking this release up this Tuesday. This is available to pre-order right now, like I said, for $34.99. I think overall, guys, I was a fan of this release. I think the 4K looks really great, but besides that, it doesn't really bring anything new to the table in terms of special features or packaging. So I would recommend buying this only if you're a huge fan of this 1982 Swamp Thing movie. Maybe check it out if you want to see it in that greater picture quality. Otherwise, if you don't own this movie at all, maybe you want to just wait for that 4K scan Blu-ray, because that one, I checked it out a little bit. That looks really good as well. But again, it looks better with the HDR and Dolby Vision for sure. But if you're not a stickler for that highest picture quality kind of stuff, then maybe just wait for that Blu-ray that comes out for $26.99, because you get all the same stuff in that release as well. And if you've been collecting for the MVD Rewind, that'll just match in with your other stuff. Again, a part of that number line. So thank you all so much for checking out my review, my 4K review of Swamp Thing. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below, guys. What do you think of the movie? If you're going to pick up this release, which one are you going to get? Again, I will link both of those down below in the description. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.